First, you turn the time circuits on. This readout tells you where you're going, this one tells you where you are, this one tells you where you were. You input your destination time on this keypad. Say you want to see the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Or witness the birth of Christ. Here's the red letter date in the history of science, November 5th, 1955. Yes, of course, November 5th, 1955.
Why? I don't get what happened.
That was the day I invented time travel. I remember it vividly. I was standing on the edge of my toilet, hanging a clock. The porcelain was wet. I slipped, hit my head on the edge of the sink, and when I came to, I had a revelation, a vision, a picture in my head, a picture of this. This is what makes time travel possible. The flux capacitor.
Flux capacitor?
It's taken me almost 30 years and my entire family fortune to realize the vision of that day. My God, has it been that long? Things have certainly changed around here. I remember when this was all farmland as far as the eye could see. Old man Peabody owned all of this. He had this crazy idea about breeding pine trees.
This is heavy duty, Doc. This is great. Does it run like on regular unleaded gasoline?
Unfortunately, no. It requires something with a little more kick. Plutonium.
Plutonium. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Dearest Mother, I hope you are faring well. I write to you on this third day of March in our Lord's year of 2021. Without any plan. I haven't written down anything that I want to say to you before I type. So I'm just typing from the hip. So if it sounds unrehearsed, there's a reason for that. You know, this movie I'm watching, Back to the Future, makes me wonder if time travel were possible. My guess is it won't be possible in my lifetime, because if it were, I would have come back and told myself by now. That's a little thing we call time travel humor. But also, if it were a mother, I would go back. I'd go back myself to a simpler time. Back when this movie first premiered in 1985. I was 8, going on 9. It was summertime. I'll never forget. It was the first time and the last time you and Father told me that the paternity tests proved I was your son and that you were proud of me. Anyway, I'm chopping some onions right now, so I gotta go and finish watching the greatest movie of all time. So until tomorrow, Mother, this is your son saying, thank you. Thank you for legally being my parents. Your son, Michael, March 3rd, 2021.
One, two, three.
Marchy McFly, Marchy McFly. Marchy McFly is Marchy McFly. Marchy McFly is Marchy McFly.
Every day in March, I'll be doing the same thing. Watching my favorite movie. Back to the Future, once a day, all month long. 31 straight days for me. Great Scott, this is heavy. It's called
You know I'm going to do that every time now. Da, 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 da. Day 3. We did it. You said it couldn't be done. You told me it couldn't be done. I read your emails. I saw your tweets. I got your phone calls, got your letters. And you told me, man, you can't do this. And by you, I mean specifically you, not the other listeners, just you. Damn it, I proved you wrong. Here we are for day 3. It's late. It is late, but I'm ready to talk more Back to the Future. And I'm going to be doing it all month long here at MARCHY McFLY. The cool thing is that I just started talking and we're already almost 7 minutes into the episode. So it makes it feel like there's a lot more going on here when it's just a lot of nonsense. A whole lot of nonsense. In fact, this episode will have even more nonsense than the first two. But there's definitely things I want to talk about. There's a lot of notes. I've taken some new notes, some things I haven't spoken of yet. And if I have spoken of, then I'm going to repeat them. And I can't wait to talk about it. All that and more. All what and more. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I can't wait to talk about everything. And I'm going to do that right after this. A good Saturday morning to you. You're listening to Hill Valley Public Radio. That's WHVP, not HPV for you pranksters out there. You're listening to This Week in Politics. I'm your host, Ron Statler, and of course this and every episode is brought to you by my dad's Toyota dealership, Statler Toyota. If you're looking for a top-of-the-line, the new 1986 models have come in. Go to Statler Toyota. You're not going to find a better deal in town. I'm pleased to have a guest here with me today. He is the campaign manager of Mayor Goldie Wilson, the current mayor who is running for re-election to the mayor's seat of Hill Valley. With me today is James Carruthers. James, how are you doing today?
Oh, Ron, I'm doing great. And let me just say that while I am a big fan of the deal your dad got me on my Corolla,
best deals in town,
I'm a bigger fan of this program, and I'm delighted to be here to talk to the voters of Hill Valley.
Well, that's great. That's really great. And why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about you and your ties to the mayor? They go back further than just your work in his office. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you so much for asking me. So I've worked in the mayor's office for the past 3 years, but the mayor actually has worked with my family a lot longer than that.
That's right.
As many of you may know, my father ran a cafe in the downtown area of Hill Valley for the better part of 40 years.
Best coffee in town.
And Mayor Wilson used to work in that cafe. And in fact, it was my father that was one of the people that inspired Mayor Wilson to seek a life of public service and eventually run for office of mayor.
That is correct. And I know Mayor Wilson has gone on record in his autobiography talking about that moment. What was it? Again, it was some very inspiring words of wisdom that your father said to Mayor Wilson that kind of made him think that, this was something he could do.
Yes, I remember my father telling me this, that he inspired Mayor Wilson with the great words, "A colored mayor? That'll be the day." He said it with great excitement and great exuberance, according to my father. And to Mayor Wilson, it really pushed him into seeking the life and the role to serve Hill Valley voters. And he's been doing so really well for the last 4 years, and he's looking forward to doing it for another 4 years in the upcoming election.
Well, that's really great. And while we wait for one of our many listeners to call,
many listeners,
because you said you would take some calls today.
Yes.
Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that Mayor Wilson is looking
Absolutely.
to enact in his second term if the voters
Sure.
do elect him back into
Yes,
office.
absolutely. If the voters do take it upon themselves to do their civic duty, and Mayor Wilson is honored to receive the honor, I should say, of being reelected. Remember, Mayor Goldie Wilson, progress is his middle name. He's all about improving Hill Valley, improving progress, and moving towards the future, but not forgetting the past. You know, the mayor has supported an initiative to save the Hill Valley Clock Tower.
Right, and we actually went to high school together.
HVHS.
And we were in high school when the
Oh.
big lightning storm of '55 actually struck and shut down the clock tower. And
Right.
it was completely inoperable for a better part of 30 years. And why don't you kind of talk about this a little more?
Well, yeah, it was. Yeah, we were in high school then when the clock tower went out. There was a big dance that
Mm-hmm.
night. I didn't go to the dance. I stayed home.
me neither.
But I heard it was pretty exciting. A lot of action. But yes, the clock tower, of course, everyone knows was inoperable. It was
Yes.
damaged. Some said damaged beyond repair, but really it was just damaged beyond what people wanted to do for it.
It's all
so
about
it
effort.
could have been fixed if people just put the effort in.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, taxpayer money really couldn't be relegated to such a thing.
Well, that makes sense.
So we are working with a group of volunteers that are just canvassing the area.
I'm one of them.
Looking for donations and trying to just save the clock tower, for
Yep.
lack of a better term.
And every penny absolutely counts. We do have a caller if
Oh,
you'd
great.
like to take a call, James.
Absolutely. And please, call me Jim.
Absolutely. All right, this is Sherman we have calling in. Sherman, you're on the air with Jim Carruthers.
Hi, Sherman.
Hey, Ron, thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I hope you permit me to talk here for a few minutes because
Yeah.
I'm a longtime voter, longtime resident of Hill Valley. I grew up here just like you guys did. I'm a little younger than you, but, I remember those days. I remember the days of going to the cafe. I remember the days of, do you remember Mayor Red Thomas?
Absolutely.
Right. Do you remember what his slogan was?
Well, what's your point, caller?
Yeah. It was progress is his middle name. The exact same thing.
It's because it's a good
Okay.
slogan.
And all I remember is, back in '55, the streets were safer. The high school was clean. There were nice stores in the downtown area.
It's a different
Okay,
time.
we had a movie theater. We had little, department stores. I remember all those things. Obviously, I left for a couple of years to go live in New York. That's where I got this accent. But I came back.
That makes sense.
So I still consider myself a longtime Hill Valley resident, all right?
Sure.
And I pay my taxes here,
It's good to hear.
and I vote here. And I have to say that I look now and I look at the high school and it's covered in graffiti, all right? You got the same principal there for 30 years. What the hell is he doing?
Strickland. A lot of people have
that,
trouble with
pardon my
Strickland.
French, but that high school has gone to crap.
Sure.
All right? Then you got the town. All right, everything is like to the future. When I grew up, there used to be a mansion
The Brown family.
where
right?
that nutso lived, and it used to have all these nice houses around there. Now it's all shopping centers and Burger Kings. All right, it's not progress. All right, it's like regression. Okay, Hill Valley is really just a cesspool of what it used to be. You remember that? 1955.
Sherman, this is Jim talking. Can I just remind you that we still do have a movie theater in the downtown area?
It's a friggin' porno theater.
That still counts, technically.
And can I just say, I don't think it started with Mayor Wilson. This started a long time ago.
Well, I think that's a very fair assessment, Sherman, because as you know, towns don't just change overnight because of one candidate or
This
one.
started with that spacecraft that crashed into my dad's barn.
Oh, you're that
We
Sherman.
tried to kill that thing, but that
Oh,
spaceman got
Jesus
away.
Christ.
Nothing has been the same in Hill Valley since. I blame him.
Okay. Well, thank you for the call, Sherman. We'll be back with more exciting political talk after this break. Quick update on your life. You are never going to get those 8 minutes back. Unless, of course, you listened at 1.5 speed or twice the speed, then you've only lost a few minutes. But that's Hill Valley Public Radio. Really, I don't know. I wrote down notes that Mayor Goldie Wilson is a terrible mayor. And that's where the idea came from, that I thought, let's see if I could try to do something with it. And then I realized that I wanted to have a caller call in and complain about how horrible the high school is. Remember, it's covered in graffiti. How the town is in. I forgot to mention the porno shops. I mean, he's a terrible mayor, and he uses the same friggin' slogan as Mayor Red Thomas. Progress is his middle name. And I have to tell you, 36 years since Back to the Future came out, and I just noticed now that Goldie Wilson has a gold tooth. How the F did I miss that? Anyway, the title of this episode is This Sucker is Nuclear. It's nuclear, right? Nuclear. Yes. I feel like Homer Simpson. I called it the episode title because A, this is when we finally see the DeLorean, and B, this is where the Libyans come in. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the Libyans. I don't think they were portrayed by Libyans. There was, I don't have the actors' names in front of me, but one of them had since passed away, and the other one was a stuntman. But 1985, they didn't really pay attention, I don't think, to the sensitivities of culture as much back then. You understand that? But let's ignore that, as they did, and say, well, terrorists do exist, so these two guys just happen to be terrorists. I'm curious, I'd love to know how they got involved with a scientist in Hill Valley. When I turned the ripe age of 40, I got some cool birthday gifts, and one of them from a friend of mine and his wife. Hello, Christopher. If you're listening, it's a different Chris. I only have Chris's that listen. But they got me a couple Back to the Future comic books. Now, this guy, I've known him since I was like a little kid. He went to school with my brother. Known him forever. And he is a huge Back to the Future guy. Like they go to the conventions. They've gone to it was one Comic-Con, and I think they got all the signatures. They got Michael J. Fox. They got Biff. They got Doc. They got Leah Thompson. I'm using names and characters, but they've gotten so many. And he picks up the stuff. He's a collector, and he messages me some of the stuff sometimes, and it's like, it is stuff that if I could, I would have a room set up for all this kind of tchotchke stuff. I would love that. Not Chachi stuff. That's different. Tchotchke stuff. I would love that kind of stuff. Maybe someday I'll be old enough and be set up enough that I could buy fun movie stuff. But anyway, he bought me these comic books, and what they did was, it was kind of like the cartoon where you had the further adventures. Look, Doc Brown had this, went to the future. He came back. He had all kinds of adventures with the train. But it was also, some of it was like his life prior to 85. Like between 55 and 85, or even prior to that. I think some of it was talking about his work with the atomic bomb. And it was just some cool side stories. So maybe something like that. Like this of course, all happened after Back to the Future. You start retconning and creating these backstories in these worlds. But there's something there. There's some reason that these Libyans contacted this guy. How did they find this guy? Who's tried to invent things for years. I mean, he says, I finally invented something that worked. That dog food feeder worked. Just Einstein wasn't there. The amp, not so much. But like the automatic turning the coffee on and automatically feeding the dog. I mean, there are things like that for real nowadays that will feed your dog on schedule and start your coffee on schedule. I mean, Doc was ahead of his time. Or was he behind it? That's what I call time travel humor. Anyway, these Libyans show up, okay? And I was texting with the other Chris today about the idea of time travel, and like, when you start watching these movies over and over, you start to go, wait a second, but if this happened, then this happened, which is fun and exciting. It doesn't take away from this movie at all for me. It just helps me. It makes me enjoy it more. Like, it makes me get into it more. But one of the things I mentioned was, okay, so however it happened, the Libyans contacted Doc Brown. They wanted him to build a bomb for them. And instead, he built them gave them something with just a bunch of, was it pinball pieces? I feel like I'm certain it's pinball, and now I'm doubting it. But anyway, they get the bomb. It's not real, so they're pissed off. All right, so they come to the mall. They track Doc down somehow. They track him down. They must have searched all over town, and they realize there's nothing going on in Hill Valley. It's not. I mean, Hill Valley in '85 is not that great. It's worse when Biff takes over in the alternate year, but the one we have now is not that great. In fact, I feel like George, if George was that successful, he would have moved out. Because even Lion Estates had graffiti all over it, like it's showing it isn't all that great, unless it's showing this is just the 80s. This is the way the 80s are portrayed. I don't know. I didn't live where there was graffiti everywhere. But anyway, I'm beyond the point. So they track Doc down. They waste no time. They don't give him another chance. They blow him away. Thankfully, they don't shoot him in the face. And Marty goes in the time machine, goes back, and comes back. And here's the thing. He writes that letter to Doc. Doc rips it up, but obviously tapes it back together. He tapes it back together, and he knows that on this date, he's going to get shot. But he also knows that this is his only chance to fuel his time machine. So even though he knows he's going to get shot, Doc Brown shows a giant set of cojones by still screwing with the Libyans and still stealing their plutonium. The set that Doc Brown shows there is like, whoa, this dude is he's either completely crazy or he's completely committed to seeing his vision come through, that he's willing to take the risk even when he knows it's going to happen. He's like, okay, they didn't shoot me in the face. I'll put on this bulletproof vest, and hopefully they won't shoot me in the face again. Nothing changed enough that they won't shoot me in the face. They didn't all of a sudden something changed and they read George McFly's book that didn't exist originally. They read his book and something, they've had a change of heart. I don't know. All these things could be possible. But they don't shoot him in the face. Luckily he lives. But I'm just saying that is a crazy set that Doc Brown has. And also, you watch this movie over and over and over again, and you start thinking, what if they did this? And what if they did that? And I thought it would have been cool if, Doc Brown, he's got the bulletproof vest on the second time around. And what if he didn't tear the letter up? What if he was like, Marty is like, you're alive. And he opens the bulletproof vest. He's like, bulletproof vest? He's like, yeah, I stole from the Libyans. I always have been wearing a bulletproof vest since then. That would have been an interesting twist because he never read the letter. He didn't know about his future. He didn't, he didn't betray the space-time continuum. And Marty, thinking all this time that Doc had died, realized that he didn't die. He never died. He never died in any version. And I just thought that would have been an interesting twist. This is what's going to happen when you watch it over and over again. And I have to tell you, I just talking about the bulletproof vest part, I lost about 5 minutes because my GarageBand crashed. And just as I was telling you it crashed, it almost crashed again. So it's almost telling me that it doesn't want me to keep talking about stuff. So I'm going to try to finish this out. Did I talk about the Libyans already? I feel like I talked about them yesterday, or the first day even. But the crash, The crash wasn't that bad. They crashed into a photo man. And are they dead? Did the news find them? Was there a police presence? I feel like Doc and Marty got the hell out of there, got in his truck, which I loved his trucks at 24-hour scientific service. Like, hey, I'm available, but the town is probably like, okay, thanks, Doc. They get the hell out of there, and they drive back to pick up the DeLorean, make sure it's working, go back to Doc's place, leave the truck there. Then he drives Marty home. Then he goes off 30 years into the future. Originally, he was going to go 25, remember? But now he's going 30 years into the future because it's a nice round number. So I'm almost done here with today's episode, but I wanted to talk about one other little note that I noticed. When I went to college, I went for the communications degree, the all-powerful communications degree. And part of it, my freshman year, I took a screenwriting class where you had to eventually, you learned about script writing, and you had to eventually write a script. I think it was script writing, actually, not screenwriting. But you eventually had to produce a 30-page script. And why 30 pages? Well, the old adage is that 1 page per script is equal to 1 minute of film. And you were going to write the first half hour of a movie. And I was taught that at that first half hour of a script is when you hit the plot point. Now, that's pretty like it is formulaic writing. Like, okay, you have a half hour of setting everything up. At that 30-minute mark, that's when things go wild. And looking at Back to the Future, at the 30-minute point is when Marty is inside the DeLorean driving. It's about, give or take with the credits and everything, it's like right at that 30-minute mark, Marty's, seeing if those bastards can do 90. For my script, I wish I still had it. I wrote it. We didn't have computers. We didn't have computers in our dorms then. I had a word processor, which was basically an electric typewriter hooked up to a black and white monitor. And I had to put one piece of paper in and hit print, and then it would type out the page for 30 pages. And my script was terrible. It was like this guy breaks out of prison, and there's a woman who is a divorcee or something. I don't know. She has a kid, and he's trying to get away, and she's doing something, and they cross paths, and he kidnaps her. But I think later they fall in love. It was really bad, but it was fun because you had to read some of it in class, and this was college, so you could be an adult. So I was dropping F-bombs in my script writing class, and I don't know, I got a kick out of it. I did okay in the class. The script never was finished, and of course never produced. I do have a college film that's out there on YouTube. I could, it has nothing to do with Back to the Future, so maybe I won't talk about it now. But maybe someday I'll share with you the link. But that's not today. Today is about day 3. Today is about Back to the Future. And at that 30-minute mark, of course, is, when Marty's about to go back to the past. But also, right before that, hey, Einie, where's Doc? And you get this big, sweeping, dramatic scene where the DeLorean, you see it for the first time. You see Out of Time. Doc is creative enough to say Out of Time with a nice California license plate. The music, you see the fog, and dun, 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 and the DeLorean pulls out, backs up, and it's like really, really like, oh, what is going on here? And then the door opens up, and this wild-eyed, wild-haired scientist just pops up like, oh, and it's like such a juxtaposition of the moment you saw for lack of a better term, it felt that this was heavy. And all of a sudden, boom, it's completely turned on its head when Doc looks up, and he's got this wild look on his face. He's not looking at anybody. He's just kind of looking off into the distance like, whoa. And that's your first introduction to seeing Doc Brown. And it's awesome. Amazing. Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about today. I think we're done here. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Geek Mentality. You know that already. Everybody knows that already. And, of course, the website is fansnotexperts.com. And until tomorrow when we do this all again, you know what comes next. Here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. 'Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time. And I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans not experts. Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?